So finally, we've reached the last set of lectures for this class, and we're going to be looking at the last chapter of the book. The chapter is going to be on conservation biology. And today we face an environmental challenge that eclipses all others in climate change. Already we see the effects of climate change. We see that we have melting ice sheets. We see that the sea level is rising. And we also see extreme weather events are occurring more commonly. Including major heat waves and precipitation. It's animals like this pika here who are likely to suffer from climate change. This little animal lives in the high mountains of the United States in the Rockies, and he has a high body temperature, and he's been adapted to live in the chilly climate of the mountain habitat. As climate change occurs, pikas are faced with summer temperatures that are much too high for it, and winters of diminished snowfall. So there's some thought that the pikas may not survive. Biodiversity is the variety of living things. And biodiversity may be a casualty of our rapidly changing environment. Loss of biodiversity. The loss of biodiversity includes the loss of ecosystems, the loss of species, and the loss of genes. And so I ask you, why do we care? Biodiversity gives us a connection to nature. And some people have a moral belief that other species have a right to live here too. And the last reason is a little self-centered, but we depend on a vital ecosystem for our own survival. So biodiversity encompasses 3 levels. The first level is ecosystem diversity, which is variation in ecosystems. We live in a world where we have destroyed about half the world's forests. Much of the grasslands have been lost to agriculture, and the aquatic ecosystems are also threatened. Many coral reefs have been destroyed. We rely on having these different ecosystems for our survival. The second level is species diversity. And here we have the 2 vocabulary words. We've got extirpation, which is the loss of a single population. So if you have birds on an island and they have a population of birds and that population is wiped out, but the birds live on other islands, that would be expatriation. Extinction is when we lose all of a population of a species. So all populations of a species have disappeared. It's estimated that extinction rates now are 100 times greater than they have been in the past or in normal times. And this chart shows us percentage of species assessed is on the Y column. And when we look at mammals, birds, amphibians, reptiles, and total animals. So the blue has the lowest risk of extinction. The green is near threatened. There's a lot of purple here for high risk of extinction, and the yellow are extinct. The amphibians are particularly high in threatened species because they are affected by climate change directly, and there's also a fungus, evidently, that is killing off a lot of the amphibian species. So the loss of one species can affect many others. These are prairie dogs, and they have been their population has been decreased substantially because they make holes in the prairie, and the farmers don't like them because of that, and their habitat has been taken over by farmland. But as the prairie dogs are removed from the landscape, the other animals that depend on prairie dogs are also affected. The prairie dog mounds increase the diversity of arthropods around their homes, and their abandoned burrows provide home for other animals. So when we lose one species, it hurts other species. So there are some international agreements to protect nearly 33,000 different species. I was reading in the newspaper about some songbirds in Italy being consumed. Birds migrate through Italy. It's a major migration route, and for centuries people have harvested them and put them on skewers to eat. Because they're now endangered, that's illegal. The Italy's National Hunting League said it was shameful, enraging, the Animal Protection League said, and a delicacy, said the regional official who, like many in the area, likes to eat the songbirds on a skewer. So changing people's habits can be very challenging. If you grew up with this being a delicacy, something that you're used to eating, it makes quite a change to be told that now it's illegal. So species lost gives us the loss of potential drugs and key ecological niches like our prairie dogs. The other thing that we can lose is genetic diversity, and this is the variation of genetic information among individuals. This variation is the raw material that makes microevolution and adaptation possible. So this is a wheat field. The crops that we rely on for food, such as wheat, have much less genetic diversity than wild strains, and that can make them vulnerable to pathogens. Researchers are currently using fungal-resistant wild wheat to make wheat resistant to stem rust. If we lose these wild wheat strains, we'll lose the genes that may enable us to make fungus-resistant crops, to make crops that won't die.